And we're getting things started with the Business Huddle with Skol Marketing. And we're super excited to have Todd Vaske with Agile Video here. And I'll give you a second here to introduce yourself a little bit, and then we'll dive into some conversation specifically about video and kind of where things are going. And, love to hear anything in that space because it's such a huge piece of people's digital.
So. No, absolutely. Thanks for having me here. I'm just a lowly video guy. Started off in TV news and just enjoyed the storytelling aspect of it. Had the opportunity to go work for Food Network, right out of working at a TV station and then working for Food Network, and then from there going on and doing a corporate production. So just love to hear everybody's story.
That's awesome. What, so in terms of moving from those larger organizations into kind of that small business space, tell me a little bit about how that transition has been for you and, what you really enjoy about the small business side, as well as what you're able to kind of do differently for clients as you've kind of changed in that way.
Sure. So, I started off, the biggest place I've ever technically worked in my professional career is at, Channel 9 in Minneapolis. And, and that's not that big. So I've kind of been in that smaller size company my whole career, and I love it. But I've worked in probably, 5 or 6 different video production companies, ranging from, I think, 4 or 5 people up to about 15 to 20. And, it's the dynamics. It's the more people you add, and this is my opinion, the more people you add, the more complexity you get and the more personalities you get. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I think it's just for my role, I just figured, what, if I'm going to give the solopreneur thing a shot. Mm-hmm. And because quite frankly, I left the last few production companies and I'm like, once I started thinking it all through, the only common denominator of the reason I left for all of those was me.
Yeah.
And so I went, you know what? Well, hey, I'm just going to go do this on my own. And the freedom is just fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely.
I absolutely love it. However, I wouldn't trade anything I've done, any of the places I've worked, any of the bosses I've had, any of the coworkers I've worked with.
That background and the knowledge you've gained through that has obviously sparked some of that entrepreneurship too. Of hey, I think I can do this in my own creative way and have your own touch and spin on everything.
I didn't think of it until it actually happened. I didn't start my own company until I was 45 years old. And through all the time before that, I was really kind of being paid to learn, what works and what doesn't in video production and running a company. And everywhere I worked, I saw, okay, that works really well. And other times, that's not so great. But then now being my own boss, I got into a few battles with bosses in the past, and now I realize, okay, yeah, they were right.
Yeah, you learn from those that growth and things of that nature, and as you kind of take on that new role or responsibility, you start to realize that, which is, it's something I absolutely understand on that side as well. When you got into video specifically, the YouTube and things like that were probably a distant thought. Did you ever imagine that it would blow up to be such a pivotal thing or a necessary thing for businesses to consider in their digital marketing plan?
Right. When I first got into the actual video production, right after TV news, everything was on tape. Mm-hmm. And you shot one video and then you had to make 3,000 VHS copies of something, and you sent it out. That was viral. If you got rid of all 3,000 copies of your video, that was viral. But I did notice, I did a lot of videos for events, like Harley Davidson had their dealership meeting events where they, launching a new product or launching a new service. And we watched, it was the same kind of platform, you started with a speaker from an executive, then you play a video about it. And you just watched when the executives are talking, people were listening, but when you saw the video of a new bike that came out or a new service that's going to help this dealership, that's where you got a lot of the applause and the people standing up and cheering. So I saw the power of video really early on, and I didn't, I didn't predict it's going to be, this whole YouTube phenomenon and things like that.
Yeah.
But I knew that we were onto something. That okay, I think people heck, I grew up watching TV.
Oh yeah.
And now this is just kind of an extension of that, and people using video to promote their products, promote their company, promote nonprofits, things like that. I thought, you know what? I think we're onto something.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. And that's something that I think, obviously now it's exploded and moved into such a new space of, okay, now people are looking on their phone, they're using it. Video is used on, social media. It's used for their websites. It's used for, all different areas. You on your website and things like that, describe yourself as that agency quality work, but you're working with a small business and are able to adjust in that space.
Right.
Talk a little about some of the clients that you work with. Sure. and what sort of videos you're working on right now, whether it's actual videos or just types of videos as well. I think that's super helpful.
No, absolutely. So I've worked in a lot of places, and there was a lot of, this is a phrase I'm not a big fan of, but riches in the niches, where we're kind of focused on one location. We focused on these career colleges. I talked about another place we really only worked with, Harley Davidson and Sub-Zero. So those are some of the bigger companies I've worked with in the past. But my mind I love to work with I'll work with a small CPA firm, 2 people, for example. And then maybe that's on a Monday, it's a video shoot. Then on a Wednesday, I do a lot of work with Dairy Queen. And maybe the CPA firm was a marketing video. For Dairy Queen, I do a lot of training. I mean, I'm not going to lie, it doesn't suck because I get to try all their new products before they're released.
That's
to
great.
see how they're made. So that's a lot of fun. I know what stuff's coming out. I can't tell anybody because of my NDA. So Dairy Queen's another one. Done a lot of work with Marvin Windows, for example. And,
Sure.
and now they were great because we went around doing case studies of these beautiful homes with these beautiful windows and the stories behind why these windows were selected, talking with the architects, the homeowners, the builders, and seeing how all those decisions are made. So it's, from that solopreneur all the way up to enterprise I work with. And I tell people, they say, well, what kind of videos do you do? It's training videos, it's marketing. I always say, I do pretty much any type of video. The only kind we don't do are weddings. I'll turn those over. If you have a wedding video need, feel free to call me, but I can refer you to the right people.
Sure. Yeah. That's totally a different animal. And it's a very specific niche. As you kind of mentioned too, is there are people that only specialize in that. That's for sure.
Right.
From a marketing perspective, how do you kind of talk about the need for video and why it's so important?
Right.
What do you kind of say to businesses?
Right. Well, what's kind of neat is since I've been in this business, it hasn't. I don't need to convince people anymore. In the past, that's what I had to do. You had to explain why video was going to be so important for them. But now I've shifted that focus, and I'm more about people know they need it, and they come to me and say, I need this. Will this work? How do we do this? How do I how do I produce this video? And so that's generally the starting point now, which is great for all, video production people, because there is a lot less convincing you need video. I mean, how much of, just think about it if you're listening here, or, Marty, how much of your day, like you said, is on your phone looking at a video or a reel or whatever you came across. It's all, all part of everyday life now. So like I said, I don't need to convince people anymore, and that's great.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. When you produce a video, are you thinking of the, production as how can we, I'm sure clients are kind of thinking of it as I need it for this one thing, like you said.
Right.
But are you thinking from the perspective of, okay, they're going to need it in other
Right.
places. Talk a little bit about, how you strategize and think about that. And maybe it's an expansion of the service and recommendation, obviously, with the customer. But I'm just curious, as you mentioned, like, you have your website, you have, YouTube,
Right.
which, could be that as well. Reels, all different areas. How are you kind of presenting that to the client and maybe helping them realize the
Sure.
importance of video beyond just, that about page or whatever?
Right. Well, this is especially true in kind of those smaller to medium size clients where generally the way it works is there's some sort of referral coming to me and I chat with them, or they're a repeat client. And so what are you trying to do? Okay, let's figure out what is your end goal here. And whenever I do a video shoot, especially again for those small to medium size clients, I way overshoot. I warn all of my videographers I work with, like, look, we're going to use the full, if it's a half day shoot or a full day shoot or a 4-day shoot, we're using all of it because there's so much. People tend to focus on this one thing, and if you just shoot one video at a time, that's where the budget creep comes in. That's when people start to spend a lot of money on video. But I always ask the question: is there anything else? Is there any other content you think you would like to use? Doesn't have to be right now, but down the road. Back when like the frequently asked question web pages were a huge thing.
Yeah.
What is on that page? I would look on that page and say, and if it's an interview, ask questions about it. Or if it's, let's just say, at a manufacturing client and there's a really cool looking machine, I'd take some shots of it, even if we're not planning on using it. And what that does is it provides, with the way the world works now with video and content, you go and do one shoot and you can get 10 videos out of it instead of just one. And my record, it was at another company I worked at, but we did a 4-hour shoot in the morning before this liquor store chain opened, and we shot 22 videos before they even open, all content. And, it's based off of planning, asking a lot of questions, what's important to you, and then you get into a rhythm. And that to me is where the producer comes in handy. Keep things moving, keep things you're 2, 3, 4 steps ahead of the game. Let your videographer take care of what they need to do. If the way I work is I trust that my videographer is going to get what they need. I usually have my videographer as the editor as well. And so they know in their head, okay, I do need a wide shot of me jump close up of this. So I don't have to stand over their shoulder and say, give me a wide shot, give me close up, give me medium, all that kind of stuff. So while they're getting the shots they need for this one thing, I'm off planning, hey, let's come over here next. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. And that keeps the shoot moving and getting that extra footage needed. It's happened a lot. I mean, at COVID, and I know that was 5 years or so ago, but because I captured so much footage, I didn't do a shoot for 10, 11 months. But I was still producing videos because I'd captured so much that I just met clients, reached out to me, I reached out to them and said, hey, we still have this in the can, this in the can, this in the can, so we can edit that.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, we have, motion graphics. You can make some explainer type videos with motion graphics. So I was able to keep chugging along, luckily, while others just, if you don't have any footage, you just kind of sit there.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's something we talk about with our clients too, is like anytime you're having a photo shoot for a website or a video shoot for a website and things of that nature, we're thinking about like long term, hey, you're going to use this for social media. You're going to use this for, maybe it's a background for the hero image or all these different things. And they don't need to be full about, explainer videos or anything like that. They could be just motion that adds to your website or adds to, that social post or things like that. So it's incredible that you do that. And obviously it's so valuable for your clients as well as that's just a mindset that, if you are, a listener here, like thinking about video, make sure you're asking those questions and looking for that type of thing, because the more info you get and the more stuff you have, whether you're using it or not, you're able to dip back into that and continue.
The way we operate is if you hire us, you own the footage. I'm not using it anywhere else. I'm not selling it to stock footage. You don't have to pay me a licensing fee or anything like that. It's yours. And people call me up all the time and go, hey, I'm building a new website, and they just ask me if we have any footage for a background image or a slideshow or whatever. Of course we do. Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes I just go, here you go.
Yeah.
And I just want to be that resource.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. Well, that's a great part to pause. We'll pause for a second here and we'll take a break, and then we'll come back and kind of finish things out with some of the trends and how video can help reach some of your ideal clients and things of that nature. And we'll have some quick questions at the end as well. Hi, everyone, and just wanted to thank our sponsor, Tailgate Spices, today. We have a few spices to check out from tailgatespices.com. Wanted to show you the Skol seasoned salt, pigskin pork seasoning, personal foul chicken seasoning, and one of my favorites, the Kale Mary vegetable seasoning. I love putting this on eggs. If you're a breakfast fan like I am, highly recommended. Go to tailgatespices.com to find them in a store near you. Tailgate Spices, get your spice on. Welcome back. We're excited to get started again, and thank you for our sponsor. And we're gonna dive right into some of the trends that you are experiencing from the video side of things. I'm curious. AI obviously is a big buzzword. Any trends in that area, as well as just things that you're seeing that are coming out that people should be aware of and starting to think about, right, that you're talking to your customers or clients about.
Absolutely. One of the things I've noticed is kind of the bread and butter you met for many years for video production was that about us video. This is who we are. This is what we do. Here's our CEO. Here's our director of sales. Here's our marketing director, all that kind of stuff. And, it would be 2 minutes to 5 to 10 minutes long. And I'm finding that most people don't really do that anymore. And they don't really need to. It's a lot more of those really short, it starts off at short bits, then it kind of leads you down the road to, okay, I'm more interested. It gets a little bit longer, it gets a little bit longer, a little bit longer. And I feel like it's a lot more of the storytelling side of things instead of just, the narrator giving us this long spiel about why Acme, company is the greatest. And I'm noticing a lot of this is again, I think another direct trend from the COVID era was, I think what happened is people still needed content. There was a thirst for that. And so what happened is the production side of things, since you couldn't really do a lot of shoots, a lot of it was done cell phone, Zoom calls, Teams calls, and things like that. And so people kind of took a step back and said, well, we don't mind if the production value isn't great, but the content has to be. If the content's crap, you're not going to get any views. It won't work. So there's just a little bit more of a trend to get a lot of content out. It doesn't always need to be this high-end, video production. You're doing some short clips on, LinkedIn. I mean, I do it myself. I shoot some promotional stuff for myself, just on, my cell phone while I walk my dog.
Yeah.
It does it, and I do that because, those types of videos are going to go out once and probably won't see them again.
Yeah, I mean, it's the whole thing of social video and social content. I mean, those are things that you might be able to reuse, here and there, but oftentimes it's used, and the amount of people that saw it are going to see it, and they move on, and
right.
People move on real quickly nowadays, especially in the world of TikTok.
and I do think that there's something to be said about shot with a phone, like a customer testimonial, for example, shot via phone, probably comes across as more authentic than this beautifully lit thing that, hey, did they pay somebody to do that? And so you asked about AI, and, it's there. It's great. There's a lot of great tools out there. I just used Opus to cut together some videos for me, and I literally just had to put it in, hit a couple buttons, and, oh, that looks nice. Make some adjustments or what to. But it still needs that human touch for the storytelling side of it. It's, it's not going to know what the inside of your building looks like.
Right.
So you still need to get some shots of that and things like that. So it's, what it's done is it makes things easier, but you also still need to have that expertise behind it, if it makes sense, that storytelling behind it, to make sure it's, that video has an impact.
Yeah. And I think it depends on, the use of it and all that stuff as well. And, in all honesty, like I've looked at, some of the AI tools out there for video as well, where I know there's some where even creating audio or enhancing audio or things of that nature, if need be, of like, this person flubbed and said the wrong word, but it was the best shot we got, and they live in Washington, whatever it is. Those are things where, having the ability to adjust that or something like that, it gives an opportunity and a cost savings for our customers as well, and things of that nature. So.
I mean, didn't even really think about it, but I've been using it for a long time, for transcriptions. I write a script, for example, and we have a lot of interviews. I just send it out to this, just to the web, send it out to this AI place, and all of a sudden in 10 minutes, I've got the whole thing transcribed, and it's, 95% accurate.
Yeah.
And in the past, I mean, my first job in video production was taking VHS tapes and looking at the interviews and typing, transcribing what was being said. So I'd type a sentence and then hit pause, have to rewind a little bit, transcribing a 30-minute interview would take, 3-4 hours. And now I can take hours of interviews and have those transcriptions, in minutes.
For sure. Yeah. So 2-part question here in terms of video. Video, obviously, we all have if you're talking VHS, all of our phones are like 1,000 times better than what you were working with at different times then, especially the home ones that we had. I'm curious of what are some things that if you are to do some of those yourself, because there's going to be times where, hey, I need to do the shot myself. I need to do a video for social or whatever it is. What are some things to be cognizant of in those moments, and at what point is it like, hey, I need to bring in that expert third party or somebody to assist with this process?
Sure. If you're trying to create a capturing the moment type thing, hey, this is just an idea I had, or that type of thing, grab your phone and shoot it. I've done a few just content videos for myself on LinkedIn that I said, hey, I almost dropped the phone. But it's warts and all. That was fine for that thing. But if let's just say you're trying to leave an impression. This is my company. This is take a nonprofit, for example. I'm trying to raise money. You know what? It's time. That's when you want to bring in the professional, when you are representing yourself and you need something that's lasting. I do a lot of nonprofit videos, fundraising videos, where we capture the stories of individuals who are affected by whatever these nonprofits do, and those need to have that shine to them, in my opinion, because you just can create that emotion. You can do these slow motion shots. You can light it just right. You can get just create that sense of, oh, I need to give to this place. So when your video needs to have a shelf life, that's when you bring in the professionals. If it's just a one-time, hey, didn't expect this to happen, look what we're seeing here. You know what? Yeah, grab your cell phone and go have fun.
For sure. Are there, as you kind of move into video, helps tell the story and that side of things, obviously, having that conversation about the storyboard and all that, you're working with the client to say, okay, who's the customer, who's the ideal person that we're trying to show this to, and then building it based on that. Curious to know, how defining that has helped, create that story arc that's found success with video for you is hey, this video, we created this for this ideal client and they saw a ton of success with promoting that video or putting it out. And the nonprofit might be a really good example of that sort of thing as well.
I'll use the nonprofit again. That's the type of video where you do need the professional to come in, because I always say this, some people, you're good at your job if you're the fundraiser for a nonprofit or you're the communications director for a big company. When you're trying to capture, customers or donors, do you have all that time to plan all of those logistics and, make sure that the video, do you have the knowledge as well to make sure you know how to do that? So the planning and for nonprofits, what I love to do is they're generally interview based, and we meet with people who work at the nonprofit and people who have benefited from it. And I love having, my challenge to myself is always, let's see if we can do this with no professional narration. I want people to tell the story. So I do pre-interviews with people. I find out their backstory, because oftentimes I'm presented with something like, here's why we're interviewing this person. And yeah, that's great. But then all of a sudden you just start asking some questions and you're developing, okay, this is a great story. Okay, yes, I get it. They're, they've benefited from your services, but how did they get there? That's where you start peeling, or appealing to your audience and inspiring them to give. And so that's where I feel like a production company, video producer can take all of that off your plate, write the script, can do all of that and get that video. I have yet to have a video not exceed its goal at a fundraiser.
Yeah, that's awesome. On that kind of note, video, I think there's constantly this thought of like video's expensive, or a production company, how do you talk through the pricing with
Sure.
customers? You don't have to share pricing and things like that, but at the same point, how do you talk through that and talk about the ROI and the long-term ROI, which we know there's multiple plays that are going to happen. This is not a one-time use.
Right. I did not come up with this, but it's always that, well, what's it going to cost you if you don't do it? And for, the cost of video has come down tremendously for a lot of reasons. That costs of the cameras they've come down. I mean, they're still not cheap, but when I started, they were $100,000 for the camera and $120,000 for just the lens. And now we're $10 to $50,000 for a video. I'm kind of making that up because I haven't bought a camera in a long time. But then the other thing is the software to edit is a lot more efficient. It's a lot better. You're not putting it to tape. It's all digital. And then the last thing is people's skill set. I mean, instead of book reports, people are doing video reports, and so that's brought the costs down actually quite a bit, and I used to say, hey, we'll start talking if you have maybe $20,000. But I mean, you are hauling in tons of the lighting is a lot better now. The LED lights are so much nicer than the things we were using in the past. And because of all those efficiencies, you can get yourself a really nice video, in the $1,000 to $5,000 range now. And then with good planning, you can, get even more. And so it's depends on your need. If this is just be really nice to have, but I, just don't have a ton of money, you know what, maybe hold off. But if you really need it, it's just think about how much you're not going to get back if you don't do it.
Yeah. And I think for some people, maybe that, what like as they're starting out, that might be, as you kind of mentioned, I don't have the budget for that. That's okay. What are some low cost options that people can consider as they're like, trying to integrate video into their growth strategy?
Absolutely. I mean, there are ways to just capture content on your phone and edit it with like Opus, like I said, is a great. That's a tool I actually really like. It gives you the captions and all that type of stuff. So if you record your Teams calls, your Zoom calls, record those. There's all kinds of content on there that you can just take these little nuggets. Again, there's AI out there where you can put an hour-long, video into it, and it'll cut it up into short little segments if you need be. Some of them are good, some of them are not. But those are some ways that if you really want to get some content out there, but you don't have the budget, go for it.
Yeah. And one of the things I know we've always talked about from that standpoint as well is like reusing content that's out there. Obviously, you kind of mentioned it in even the videos, reusing those in different ways.
Yeah, repost. That's a great point, Marty. I think a lot of people forget they had this post up. Think of it like a TV commercial. How many times do you see if you still watch TV, a progressive ad? You know, they don't air it once and it goes away. It comes back and comes back. It's same with those content videos that you're putting out on, you know, LinkedIn, or you're putting them, you know, whatever social media platform you're on. Yeah, wait a couple months, put it back out there, because, you know, you'll have some of the same people who will see it, but they might watch it again.
Right.
They're not going to go, I can't believe they're sending this out again.
Right.
And you're going to get people who hadn't seen it. So, yeah, that's a great point.
And one of the things we always recommend, too, is if you're creating blogs or other things as well, that's a great opportunity to create a video on that sort of thing as well. You have your service base, but also just if you're creating a blog topic or you know, blog that you're putting out there on a monthly basis, you know, take that as your script. You can use AI to write a script based on that, and you know, simply put, you know, stand in front of a camera and read the script. You know, you can start there. You know, if it's on the more basic level, it's going to look like you're reading a script, but it's also something where you get used to it. And that's something that, you know, doesn't come natural, and is something that will be beneficial when you start working with, you know, that production agency, and you have that those dollars put aside for that sort of thing as well.
You know, another trend, you just reminded me, another trend is, I mean, it used to be somebody said, I don't want a talking head video. You know what? Those are kind of a thing now again.
Yeah.
Those are, if it has to have good content, but if you're giving great information and it's just you on camera talking, you got a good chance of people going, oh, okay, liking it, commenting on it, maybe even reaching out to you.
Yeah, I mean, those are huge on especially social media. We see them on TikTok, and we see them on, you know, the Instagram stories and things of that nature, where those are the ones that it's the, you know, it's your brand. You're talking about, I'm the expert, you know, and they're getting that really good info. This has been super great. There's a lot of really good information, I think, that people have gleaned from this, and hopefully thinking about video as a part of their marketing strategy. As we know that's super important. You know, one of the things that we always talk about is YouTube is owned by Google, and you know, if you're looking to get found online, you have to be doing something on YouTube, and that's, you know, it's all video focused, right? So, but wanted to transition to a lightning round of just some questions.
I'm ready.
So first of all, wanted to ask, what's a favorite, you know, book that you're reading right now, or podcast that you're listening to?
All right, I'm going to go. Book is The Little Book of Networking. It's by a local here in the Twin Cities, Kurt Schmidt. It's 30 pages, but a great reminder of how to network and why to network. And podcasts besides this one, there's one called The Kindness Chronicles that I listen to. It just reminds everybody a little bit of kindness goes a long way.
I love that. One piece of advice you'd give somebody starting to use video in their marketing campaigns?
I say try it. Whatever, you know what? Throw something out to see what it likes. Does it work better to use a cell phone? Does it work better to use, is it a Teams video? And keep track of it. Make sure you measure it and what's working for you.
We started out talking a little bit about, you know, being a business owner and things like that. If somebody's looking to go out on their own and start their business, what's one piece of advice that you'd share to them?
I say make sure you don't start your business right away on your own. Work for at least one other company. If you can work for 3 or 4 other companies, you'll get paid to learn.
Outside of work, how do you unwind? I know you mentioned walking a dog and things of that nature, but how do you unwind from a long, chaotic day?
There's so much. Absolutely love to cook. Grilling up, you know, I'll go outside and grill 4 or 5 different things just because I feel like it. I do what I do because I love show and tell as a kid, and so that means that sitting by a campfire and just telling stories and hearing stories, one of my favorite things. And then, you know, you can't go wrong with a little 80s hair metal. Come on. you know, give me a little Rat, a little Poison, a little Def Leppard, and I'm happy.
I love
Oh,
that.
but I can't forget Van Halen.
I love that. Well, let's jump right into
Well done.
the end here. And it's been so great talking to you, Todd. And thank you so much for sharing some of your insights and your background. And obviously, I hope our listeners got some really good insights that they can take to their own marketing plan. Any last words that you wanted to share before we kick things off?
If you have any questions, reach out. I'm on LinkedIn. I don't have a company LinkedIn because I feel like it's me. I want you to connect with me and not a brand. If you do want to, it's agile-video.com as well, a way to reach out. Any question, willing to chat.
Perfect. We'll make sure to add those in the comments in the description below. And be sure to connect with Todd. It's been so great to have you. Thanks.
Thanks, Marty.